In this video I will show you how to delid and relid your new Core i7 or i5 8th gen, but this will also work for 7th, 6th and 4th. And basically any other. Just make sure you're not on the high-end desktop platform because those will use different tools. You might want to test if the CPU is not a dead-on-arrival, a DOA, before proceeding with this, because this will void your warranty from Intel. But since CPUs don't really often go DOA, and I already got a CPU installed in my PC here, I don't really feel like taking it out. I don't really want to. I got this Dr Delid tool. There's a regular version and there's a professional version. I'm doing a few Delids, so I took the professional version, which the base is made out of metal. The best part about this is when you apply force here, the screw won't break the threads versus the plastic version. I didn't try the plastic version, but the metal version was just my preference. I did take away the notches here, which allow for alignment. So I could also delid 4th gen, well, a different socket than the 8th, 7th and 6th gen processors. So make sure the notches on the top are in the tool. You can also use a different tool. There's also a very popular tool by the German overclocker, which is working with case kings. But I prefer this tool, and his tool wasn't available. This tool is basically the same way. You just apply force with a hex wrench. But his one will just push it, this one will twist it. I prefer the twisting method because it will spread the force evenly across the IHS, the integrated heat spreader, which is the one we're removing. So just push. I'm not using a whole lot of force here, but it's a significant amount. Then it will just become lighter and lighter. That's just all the way. So just pop it down there. And it's loose. So what you want to do is clean this off the glue. Remove this, clean it with alcohol, highest percentage you can find. I couldn't get my hands on isopropyl easily here, so I just took this one from a local shop. Remove this glue with a credit card. Remove this with a tissue or cloth or anything, and then clean it with alcohol. This part also, clean the glue off with a credit card or some other plastic card, whatever, and then carefully, because this is the actual chip, the actual piece of silicone is on here, just remove it with a tissue and some alcohol. I'll just speed this process up so you don't have to bear with me here. You will have some staining left from the from the thermal paste. It's also not bad if you got some glue left on the edges here. This will not cause any problems or whatever. Just make sure you got it off the edges. Just the inside part is fine. If you have some residue left of the glue, you don't want to have it on the top side. So you can see a few black spots here. I'm going to remove those now. Now moving on to the actual chip itself. On a side note, be very careful that you don't actually hit this piece of silicone. That's where deliding is going wrong. Just be sure you stay well clear of this part. For this part, right before applying the actual thermal paste, I'm using a new piece of cloth just to make sure there's no residue from the old piece of cloth left. So just put this down like so, careful. These cloths came together with the Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut thermal paste I have over here. I think it's a great thermal paste. Everyone's opinion is different. Someone are using cool laboratories, someone are using regular thermal paste. I've been getting great results with this one, and availability is normal. The price isn't too bad for a high-end thermal paste. Just make sure you carefully clean this part. Don't apply too much force, don't apply pressure or anything. And then just rub it off. Let the residue just, because it's alcohol, it will just evaporate. This is just my own little process. I'm putting it back in. I'm taking the higher percentage alcohol just because I want to. I mean, if you're taking all this risk and everything and you're already cleaning it, it's best to make it as good as possible, right? See 2 smudges on there? I think it's perfectly clean now. So what I like to do is, because the next step will be the reliding, so I already put it in there. Back in its place, the notches will line up. I took away those notches as I explained before. So there's no notches, but those will be at the top. When applying the thermal paste with the Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut paste, I already used this one a few times. So there's 3 nozzles. It's the storage cap, the application nozzle, which is like a tiny metal needle, which is what I'll be using now, and the liquid metal removal. So this is what you will use if you use too much. I also found it to be able to use with this one as well, but you don't really want to force this piece of metal onto your PCB, rather use a piece of plastic. I'm using the same cotton swab for a few times because, well, thermal paste goes onto the cotton swab. This stuff is, well, it's pricey. You don't want to lose any of it. Just lose a tiny little blob, take the swab and just rotate. It will apply pretty fast. Make sure you get nothing besides the PCB. So you see I missed a tiny bit on the right side. I just take the other end of this cotton swab and swipe it off. Just keep swiping it off. With this CPU it's not really a big issue because there's no other parts on the top side of the PCB. I also think I applied just the right amount, maybe a little bit too much, but there's like a little lake of liquid metal on top of it. I mean, it's coffee-like, so there should be a lake, right? For the next part, I'm taking the alignment tool, the pressure tool, so it will pressure on good. I like how this part is made out of plastic, so you can't actually damage the integrated heat spreader. So then we came to this part back here. It doesn't really matter how you align it, but just make sure that the heat spreader is like so. The notches will be here and here, so you won't have it here. You can also just rotate it if you like, but I want to do it perfect. I got this silicone glue from UHU. You might not have this available, but basically it's a black silicone heat resistant. So if it's heat resistant, if it's silicone, the color doesn't really matter, but Intel's using the black one. If you somehow want to armate the CPU someday, it's nice if it looks from the outside, it looks the same. So what you're going to do is just reapply. I'm just taking this precision knife, I forgot the name, oh, Exacto knife, and just reapply a small layer here, just a small layer. You don't want to do the same thing Intel does, applying too much glue or unevenly. I mean, it is all fixable, but just make sure you only apply a tiny amount. You just want to keep the heat spreader on there. You don't want to glue it on there forever. You might want to reapply your thermal paste. I did a few CPUs in this way and I never found them to come off. So just make sure it's like grayish. If you're using black glue, just apply a tiny layer. You don't need a whole lot, it just needs to stay in place, that's all. You can also run it without a heat spreader. That's what I've heard, I've not tried it. But I don't get these processors for free. This is actually a job for a customer of mine. He requested it. So I'm making it. I already did my own CPU this way, so it's confirmed. And also internet has confirmed it a few times, so no real risk here. My current benchmark results are 1.5 gigahertz at about 1.35 V-core, but I've only been tinkering with it one night after work, so I might get better results, higher frequency, lower V-core. I don't know, I still have to try. Rebooting, etc., loading up, install the clean Windows, install your software, etc. You know, it all takes a lot of time. It's not bad if you miss a spot or anything, just make sure you get the gist of it. So it's a little bit thin on the top side and the bottom side, but it doesn't really matter. It will stick on there just fine. So what I like to do now is just clean off the edges just with my finger. You don't really want, in case of an RMA, you don't want to have too much glue sticking on there. So I'm going to manually align it on top of it, and then I'm going to take the adjustment tool. So it's almost aligned now. Taking the tool that came with it, putting it in place. Like so. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but it doesn't matter. The thermal paste will be on there. If you're using this tool, this piece will line up with this edge. If you don't use it properly, it will not line up properly. So just slide it on top of there, twist it, twist it, twist it, and that's like, I'm just slightly, it won't go any further. Remember, there's a tiny piece of silicone underneath, you don't want to damage it, so just keep it like this. Let it rest for about 30 minutes and your delid is done. Just pop it in there and we'll be good. Thanks for watching. If you like it, just do thumbs up. I don't do videos well, so don't subscribe if you don't want or something. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll get notifications. I'll reply to them. Thanks for watching.